Good, great day to you, Brother Damon Chief Jones. Hey, I'm going to talk to you about the shooting in Florida, but I want to say a couple things first. It's like I told you, I was going to go with the majority of you all, and so y'all seem to like Damon Chief Jones as my channel name because it says who I am, and kind of self-explanatory, and people become used to it as well. So I'm gonna just leave it like that. I may possibly put something after that, like Damon Chief Jones investigative report, or looking into things deep, or I don't know, or may just leave it like it is. But anyway, it's been a great outpouring. Thank y'all so very much for everything. Now, I am probably the most politically incorrect guy there is, but don't use a lot of what's considered foul and nasty language, verbiage to get my point across. I'm not for the Republicans and I'm not for the Democrats. I would probably be considered an independent or libertarian. The majority of my vote has gone Republican where possible. I have been a registered Republican in the past. I've been a registered Democrat in the past. Most of the behind the scene things that happened in the Republican Party when I was there seemed to be pretty straightforward, pretty honest. And if there was some bad press or bad news, they're like everybody else. They want to do damage control and get out front of things and so forth and so on. The Democrats, I've been to a lot of Democratic Party events and so forth, and it's like, well, how can we make it go away? How can we sweep it under the rug? Who can be the scapegoat? Who's willing to fall on their sword for the party? So, out of the two, I found the Democratic Party to be extremely dishonest, and this is starting back in the Bill and Hillary Clinton years, White House years, back when he was governor in Arkansas, all the way through present day. So I have, there are a few Democratic people at a few different locations over the years I have voted for, but the majority were Republican or they were independent, no political affiliation. So let me just get that out there first. Now, Democrats, for whatever reason, every single time there is a tragedy, they want to jump out in front of the tragedy instead of dealing with the tragedy first and give it, I would say, 2 weeks. Okay, I understand things move real fast in a 24-hour news cycle, around the clock. I've heard the same talking heads over and over and over and over, like, depending on what network and what kind of contract you get, anywhere from probably 500 to 3,500 is what they get every time they get on there and do their little commentary. Depends on how long, who you are, your contract. But people in the business tell me it's 500 to maybe 3,500, somewhere in there. If you're just guest appearance and you have knowledge in a certain area. Like if I was more well known, like maybe I had a gigantic talk show, television personality, movie star, and I wanted to comment on these things, they give me 500 to 3,500 to comment, so long as I had a following, yada yada yada. Anyway, I said that to say this: you can only talk about a thing so much, and you can only hash over it so much. Okay, let's keep things real. I've been in law enforcement 40 years. I've been what they nowadays call first responders, which, they're just trying to tweak words and get more inclusive words and get it into the American vernacular and get people trained to using certain words. It's part of government training indoctrination, okay? Just like in schools now, they don't want to do these father-daughter dances anymore, or father and daughter or son and mother dances. Okay, because somebody thinks it's not politically correct for whatever reason. And all this gender crap going on. I don't know who I am. I don't know if I'm a man or a woman. Get real. You got a penis, you're a man. That's it. You got a vagina, you're a woman. That's it. Okay? Now, there are medical mysteries where people's got penises and vaginas both. Well, at that point in time, you're a freak of nature. Okay? If it happened to me, I would be a freak of nature. I understand. It is what it is. I'm not politically correct. I have sensibility, but I'm not politically correct. So I am very sorry for anybody that's happened to. That's horrible. But then you'd have to decide, if you fit into this special category where you're a man and woman both. Okay? And whoever you decide you are, that's it. Okay? If you say you're a man, okay with me. If you say you're a woman, okay with me. That's up to you. Okay? That's between you and God to figure out. Okay? Something went wrong. Okay? I got a lot of thoughts about that, but I won't share that here. This is more about the Florida shooting. So, here's the deal. I spent, I think it was 19 years in law enforcement in Florida alone. Okay, I've worked 5 states total. But 19 years of it was in Florida. Give or take a few days a week. Can't remember exact, but about 19 years. Okay. Anyway, I retired out of Florida 2 different times. Let's see, 2. And then I had a medical line of duty, administratively determined line of duty medical outage also, so that'd be 3. Anyway, I know in Florida, where I spent the most consecutive years out of everything, that mental health is a gigantic problem. Now, in the other states it was too. Some states deal with mental issues better than other states. But here's the deal. We had kids. Oh, well, a kid equals a goat. Look it up. Ha! But I get trapped in using the wrong words sometimes too. We had children. A man-child and a woman-child that were between, say, 10 and 17 that was at the county jail. Okay? They were in the, excuse me, juvenile or non-majority age confinement area. Okay? Girls one place and boys are another. Anyway, in there, you would have these children who would talk about killing themselves or killing another or creating harm. Okay, they did not need to be at the county jail. We were housing or warehousing children who were psychologically impacted. Okay, they were either, some of them, bipolar. We have psych staff on duty to help us determine who's this or that. And of course, if the children did specifically say that, then they had to go down to another section and be put into a protective vest, and everything's removed from them, and they get a loaf lunch where everything's cooked inside to some bread, and they get a paper cup with water and that loaf to eat, and you got to stay there to maintain them. Okay? Or they would go to a special psych unit for a juvenile, depending on parameters. Never did make no sense to me, and I talked to everybody and their dogs. I talked to state representatives, okay, multiple times. I went down in person and talked to the governor's office when Jeb Bush was governor. I didn't talk to him specifically. I talked to his administrative assistants, and I've talked to a lot of staff. I talked to the Senate side and the legislative side in Florida. Now, we're talking from 1989 through 2008, okay, that I talked to people throughout the state about getting these children help that were going to these places, that this wasn't right. that they were volatile. They already have raging hormones. Their body's going through the process of becoming an adult. They sometimes come from broken homes, which were the emotional side. Then some of them had family histories of psychological difficulty to where their brain put off too much of one chemical versus another, which caused a chemical imbalance. I went and talked to psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors. I talked to ER staff, so forth and so on. We've had kids that have injured themselves and injured other people, but these quote assault weapons wasn't in the headlines. So before there was ever a headline issue with assault weapons, if you got a butter knife and you ram it in somebody's ear, up their nose, into their brain, and kill them, what's that, an assault butter knife? Anything that you use against another man or woman is an assault weapon. It's something that's been formed, created, or used to assault somebody else. So using assault weapon, it's an assault firearm. Actually, it's a firearm, period. Okay? It depends if you're using it offensively or defensively, kind of gives it a defense. Okay? That's why in the Constitution, the Second Amendment, it said the right to bear arms. Arms. Okay? That's for self-defense. And also if the government becomes radical, to be on even footing or ahead of the government, to take them by force if necessary, if they become radical and tyrannical against its people. Okay? If they violate the covenant, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, it's a covenant. It doesn't have an expiration date. It's between us and our servant government. God gave us a covenant, our Bible. That's the covenant between God and man. He's the creator, okay? We're his children, we're his subjects. He's King of Kings, Lord of Lords, okay? We, in turn, made a covenant for those beneath us, which were our servant government. So we made a covenant with them, telling them what their limitations was. God told us what to do, not to do, what our limitations was. That's our covenant. That's our laws. Well, we created the same thing with our people. And a great majority of them are in this for what they can get for themselves, not what they can do for you or me. It's a game. Now, the people at the Department of Corrections in Florida told me repeatedly over and over, which I worked for them on 2 different occasions, told me repeatedly, we are to house and warehouse the criminally insane, or the insane that's committing criminal acts. We do not have enough facilities and enough beds in the crazy house to deal with these people. Okay, whether they're young or older, in between. So we're the de facto crazy house. Okay, so that creates a lot of problems in jails and prisons. Why do we not have it? Because they will not come forward with the expenditures. They will not use the tax dollars to build these facilities. Because, for example, a grown man, 18 years of age or older, we can take care of his housing, his medical, his everything under these limited resources in a correctional facility setting, depending on what county you're in, depending on a whole bunch of variables. We might can take care of you on a prorated base from maybe $2,000 a year to $10,000 a year, okay, per man. Okay? If we're taking care of the same man in a psychiatric setting, we're looking at a rock bottom of $20,000 to $100,000 per person. We just can't afford it. Well, my talk is you can't afford not to. These people are going around and they burn people's houses down. They shoot police. They kill police. They kill their own families. They kill other people in prison. Okay? How much is somebody's life worth? Do y'all got any kind of dollar figure on what a life is worth? They said, well, a life's worth $100,000 in Florida by law. I tried to figure that out, and I guess it's where at one time they had this thing set up where workers' comp in Florida, if you died on the job, you got $100,000, so they say that's what a life is worth. They priced a dollar price on a life. I said, well, what about these young people? Well, we got things where if counselors, teachers, and principals think somebody's a troublemaker, they didn't have no defined process. I said, well, wait a minute. Now, people have due process of law, and you're a government facility, and you're talking to juveniles of non-age, most of the time without their parents available, and you may be talking to them about criminal acts, and you haven't given them no warning, and you're acting as an agent of the state. So you got to have a process. Well, that's going to complicate it. Well, rights are complicated. Okay, privileges come and go. Rights come from God. A man has a right to due process. If you're a child in a school and you're 6 years old, 10 years old, 17 years old, you still have due process. So if the police are going to be contacted about your bad behavior, and then the the teacher, the principal, the counselors are going to say, he told me blase, blase. Okay, and that's going to be used against you. Well, if your behavior is ever to the point that it may be criminal, it may have you locked up into a mental ward, a psychological ward, you have to be given notice of some sort that what you say or do can be used against you by school officials, and they're going to turn this over to the police, and they're going to use it against you. Okay? At that point, students need to be told when they come in, and their parents, here's the process. From the day your kid goes your child goes to elementary school through the day they graduate high school, if they display the following behavior, and you're going to have to spell out that behavior. If they get on social media after school that has nothing to do with school, then the school needs to be out of it. Okay? You're going to ask the school to monitor the children's social media network? Come on. Okay? But if that's the way it's going to go, then you're going to have to give them a notice that we're going to monitor this. Okay? If there are complaints against your children, you're going to have to be notified as their legal guardian or their parent about what this is. If other children come to school and tell the teachers or counselors, hey, John Doe or Susie Q, Tyrone, whomever, Marcus Apaco said some things on the internet yesterday that a lot of us saw that sounds dangerous or creepy. Well, creepy ain't illegal, but said things that worry us, that scare us. Well, then they need to have a form that they can fill out. These forms need to be gathered up. Okay? Then the child and parent needs to be told, we have 22 forms, and the children and the people have a right to confront their accuser. So this can't be a thing of secrecy. Okay? There could be 3 or 4 kids that are mad at you and make stuff up. Children make up a lot of stuff. We know that. Adults make things up too. So you're going to have to sign your name to it, and you're going to have to attest, aver, or swear, depending on your religious beliefs, that this is true and correct. You're going to have to take a screenshot or provide other evidence that it's on there, that it ain't something you made up. Okay? And then the parents and the child's going to have to be notified these are claims against your children, and they and we agree that it's creepy. Okay, well, creepy again ain't against the law. It's just we don't like it. Well, okay, welcome to free speech. Welcome to America. Now, if it is threatening, but it's not a specific base threat against an individual man or woman or against themselves, and they just say they like this or like that, well, a lot of people like things that other people don't like or most of society hates. There's people that eat snails. Okay? That might be alarming to some people. Somebody wrote on there, I eat snails. Well, I don't eat snails. Escargot. But if you said that, people say, oh, okay, that's a prepared snail. But if you just run and grab it out of your garden and eat it, well, that's evil or something. See, it depends on your level of understanding. It depends on your intelligence. Depends on your raising. But let's just say there's this a credible threat. It has rose to the level, excuse me, dry skin, sinuses. Anyway, it rises to the level that these people are very concerned. They've notified the parents. The parents have come to the school and been notified by school officials. They tell the parents and so forth that we're going to also notify the police, but we notify you first because you got a right to an attorney. You may need to seek medical attention for your child, psychiatric or physical attention for your child. You may need to get them an attorney. Okay? We're not law enforcement officers, but we are going to turn this over to them in the next 24 hours. So if you want to get an attorney, you want to go to a doctor, you may do what you need to. The police may wish to discuss this with you, and you don't have to talk to them, but you can talk to them. The police can ask all the questions they want, but you're under no obligation to answer them. The police have no duty to tell you the truth, so the police can lie to you. The courts have said over and over. They can trick you. They can say things that are just completely false, and it's okay. But if you lie to them, it's a crime. So the government wants to have a one-way street with you, okay? Now, on the other hand, we have a one-way street, as in government employees are required to ID. So when you ask a policeman, what's your name, what's your badge or ID number, then they have to give it. It ain't conditional on if you give yours. They just have to give it. It's been requested lawfully, and they have to give it, okay? But they try and play this game. Well, you give me yours, I give you mine. No, we don't play show and tell. You have to tell me who you are, okay? Well, anyway, let's just say that if you decide your child needs some mental or physical help with doctors, psychiatrists, or if you belong to a church and you have the elders and deacons or the pastor of your church that are going to counsel your child, work with your child, pray with your child, and that's your religious beliefs, then you can go that way and you tell you ain't talking to the police. And you ain't got nothing else to say. So that's your right. But let's just say in this protocol, then the police are notified. Well, the police can monitor that child's social media. The police can talk to other children who want to voluntarily talk about this child to the police, or other school staff that wants to talk to them, so they can have a reporting system in the state. So you have to give your name and who you are. Well, let's just make it secret where people won't be scared to tell. No, you got a right to confront your accuser, because people have and people do lie. You have a right to confront your accuser. Anything that's done in secret is in a democracy. A republic requires openness, requires that you be able to confront your accuser. Well, if somebody's accusing you of hatred, being a threat to them or the others or the community, that person has to step forward and be identified. That's just the way it is. Okay? If the police come tell me, well, people's reporting, no, we're not going no further till we have names, who these other people are, and they're where I can confront them, okay? Anybody can tell a lie on me. I have the right of confrontation. We're not going one step further till I know who has accused me of wrongdoing, okay? But I just keep digressing, belaboring things. I apologize. I'm sorry. But here's the deal. if you got this system, and if the police say, okay, now you're on our radar, then there's somebody that needs to be in that department, whether it's 1 or 2 people or 3 people, that keep a track of troubled youth as well as adults. Because if you're an adult or a child, either way, and you're saying these things on social media, or you're saying them at public events, or you're telling your neighbors or friends things, then the police need to have a way for the citizens to come fill out this form and sign it with your information. You're making an allegation, okay? You're saying that they're doing things that are threatening, okay? That can be a crime. Okay, you're part of the investigation, okay? So in case I'm charged or somebody else is charged with this, then you can't say, police said we had anonymous reports. No. You have to go back and provide the form that said I was saying this, because then I have a right, if it goes to court or there's an arrest, I have a right to depot and bring to court my accusers, okay? You don't get to play with that. But let's just say you're watching me or some other guy or woman out there because we've gone through a process, a due process. We've been told, we've been notified, we've been contacted, we've been given an opportunity. The law requires opportunity in it. We've been given an opportunity to get medical assistance. We've been given an opportunity to get legal counsel or lawful counsel, okay? We've been given an opportunity to go to church and pray, to do what we need to do to get right if we are ill. Nobody bugs out if you got a broke leg, okay? You go get help for that broke leg. If you got a broken mind, you ought to be able to go get help for your broken mind. They got medicines, therapies, and treatments for a broken mind, just like they do a broken back or a broken leg, or an eye injury, or an ear injury, or an internal organ issue. You're allowed an opportunity for treatment to correct yourself, okay? It ain't like you got mens rea and say, I know what I'm doing wrong. So this firearms thing is a mental health issue. It is not a firearms issue. If somebody can't get a gun, which is arms, they can't get themselves some arms, then they go and get high-powered bow and arrows. If they don't get that, then they get BB guns. If they don't get that, then they get steak knives. They get dirks and daggers and other things that'll hurt or kill people, okay? They get ropes and put them around people's necks and choke people to death. They pick people off one at a time through various means, okay? People like me are trained in how to counteract these things. So obviously I know 100 and plus ways people can kill people, and I don't want to put that out there just like an arson investigation, okay? Arson investigators don't tell a lot of things because it would teach people how to create arson and get away with it, okay? So I don't want to give nobody any ideas, but I'm saying whether you have a rock or a brick and you hit somebody in the head and they die, or you shoot them with a gun, they're still dead. Or we're going to have assault rocks and assault guitars. You whack them over the head with a guitar and kill them. You take a pencil and run it up somebody's nose and shove it into their brain. And now you have an assault pencil because you stabbed somebody in the brain, or you poked their eyes out, or you suffocated them, or whatever else you did. The point is, we don't need no more laws on firearms. We're over regulated. Well, the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. It's infringed and infringed and infringed and infringed and infringed over and over and over and over and over and over. The government doesn't like people having arms. They don't like them having reasonable and equitable arms, okay? Just because a rifle can take in 10 or 20 or 100 rounds or however many doesn't make it some special out of this world arms. Okay, it's kept up with technology. Okay, every 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, a lot more technology comes along. Okay, so let's just look at it realistically. If the government gets off the hook to the point that the people have to defend themselves, we can't have single fire guns. We're going to have equal opportunity to defend ourselves and our nation from our servants when they become too perverted. They're already perverted. They already do unlawful things, illegal crimes day in and day out. These are judges, policemen, lawyers, firemen. Doesn't matter who it is, they commit crimes all the time. Okay? Every time I reported crimes and wrongdoing, they tried to shuffle me onto another department, or they tried to launch an internal affairs investigation against me to minimize my credibility. But I think I come out in the end on top over and over and over and over and over and over, because truth shall make you free. Not set you free, but make you. Set you free is often misquoted. Set means to allow. Make is absolute. God will make you free in truth. Okay? Doesn't mean you won't have nobody come after you or do you wrong, because men are evil. And sin has brought a lot of evil things into this world. That's why a lot of things happen with birth defects and so forth and so on. Sin is rampant in this world, and sin's rolling right on down the line. And so we got to deal with sin and disease and things that we didn't have to deal with if Adam and Eve had done right. So